Welcome to the High Ticket Success Podcast, where premium coaches, consultants, and advisors come for bold strategies, big breakthroughs, and real results. I'm your host, Dave Dubeau. Hey, folks, welcome back. Let me ask you a question. If you've been in the high ticket space for a while, are you actually charging enough? Do you feel like you should be charging more for your products or your services? Have you gotten some pretty amazing results for your clients, but you don't really know how to take your pricing to the next level? Well, pay attention to today's guest. Robin Waite knows all about that. Robin's been in business for himself for many, many years, built up and sold off a very successful agency. And for the last number of years, he's been working with a lot of business owners, coaches, consultants, advisors. He's a very well-known author, public speaker, YouTube channel guy, and pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome, Robin.
Oh, Dave, it's an absolute pleasure to be here as well. Gosh, that's an act to follow, isn't it, after that introduction?
Well, Robin, let's start with the basics. And who is, I know you work with a lot of different folks, but there's probably one audience that you just really resonate well with. Who would that be these days?
Yeah, these days it's coaches. So the vast majority of my clients are coaches, mostly because it's a space which I've filled now for the last 10 years. I'm very passionate about it. And there's a reason behind it. It's possibly a slight gripe, is that I see a lot of coaching accreditations and companies, they do a great job at sort of training up these amazing coaches, but then they send them out of coaching school without any business knowledge or
marketing knowledge.
Yeah, they don't have knowledge. Clients, they don't know how to enroll clients. They undercharge for those clients which they get, and then what that means is ultimately those amazing coaches just don't end up sort of sticking it out. Even the failure rate for coaches is particularly high within the first 12 months, more so than the average sort of business.
I don't even know what it is. What are the stats that you've heard?
Believe it or not, it's close to 60% actually of coaches give up within the first year. And it's purely down to the fact that they just leave ill-equipped to be able to run a business. And it's twofold, actually. Part of it is the challenge of, leaving, let's say, the corporate space, where everything else is done for them. Somebody else, there's a marketing department, an admin department, a finance department, a sales department.
Plus a regular paycheck.
Well, that's it as well, the security. And so, all of a sudden now they've got to put all of these different hats on themselves. So that's the main one. But the second one as well is the landscape of business, and this is something I could talk about for hours, but we won't do necessarily for this podcast. But I've been in business 21 years, and the landscape of business in general has changed dramatically in terms of the number of businesses out there, what fast internet and social media have done to marketing. It's actually, I don't want to start this off by being a Debbie Downer, but it's made it really quite hard actually to sort of grow a business in 2025. Easy to set up, but hard to grow. Yeah. And so again, I think, I'm here to kind of bang that drum that, look, if you can get through this first year, kind of tough it out, and there are ways to kind of, grow it a little bit quicker perhaps, or in a slightly easier, more fun and fulfilling way, then that's the hard part done. After that, it will, won't get any easier necessarily, but you'll just start to get better at it and move a little bit faster.
Okay, well, that's fascinating, Robin, and thanks for sharing the stats with me. I absolutely believe you. Business is never easy for anybody at any point, but yeah, there are just so many coaching certification programs out there, so many new coaches. It's a massive churned kind of industry. So what are some of the recommendations you give to people in order for them to be able to stick it out, especially that first year?
Yeah, the first one is escaping time for money based sort of selling. So a lot of coaches will sell per session. Yeah. And it's a mistake I learned very on in my coaching career, actually. So I learned it firsthand, but I used to sort of do my cash flows, and at the time I was selling one-to-one coaching, and most of my clients were on board for 6 months, but I'd get to the end of the month, sort of scratch my head going, and I consider myself to be a smart guy, right? So followed all of the frameworks and everything. Get to the end of the month, I'm like, and there's just not as much money in here as I'd anticipated. And when I started to look at churn on clients, the average amount of time that a client would stick around out of my 6 months was 4.2 months. The first one I saw, well, am I a bad coach? Is there something that I'm doing wrong here? And actually, it wasn't. It was actually because I was a good coach, because if you get results relatively quickly with clients and you don't have a contract in place, and things like that, if you're not selling products or packages, if you're just selling per month or per session, Well, they get to a certain point, good or bad. They can have a bad month and choose to leave. They can have a great month and then think, oh, right now I've got all my coaching. I'm full now. I'll leave. So, that meant that I was losing 1.8 months on average per client. And that's where the sort of leaky bucket was.
Yeah.
So I was just, what I would do is I would just charge a monthly fee, like, kind of slightly embarrassing now thinking about it, but like £250 or £500 a month, say, depending on how much coaching we did. And so very quickly I realized that actually I need to sell packages. So somebody buys 6 months. Well, what's the outcome they're getting for that coaching period? So for me at the time, it was about just getting on top, like being a fearless business owner, just having the confidence to go into a room full of strangers and sort of talk about their business or have very powerful sales conversations with people when at the start of the coaching journey or whatever it might be. So I kind of packaged up based on that result. By the time you leave, we're going to get you, like you come in a 2 out of 10 on the fearless scale. And then by the time you leave, you're an 8, 9 or a 10. That's where we want to get you to. And so now I was doing it so they were paying for the outcome, not per session. And so,
right. So you're bundling up 6 months of service into this package instead of month to month to month, and they drop off at some point. You're pre-selling the entire package, but you weren't saying, hey, it's 6 months of us, blah, blah, blah. It's like, here's what you're going to get with this package. And oh, by the way, it happens to be 6 months. Here's the other. Am I understanding you?
Yeah, absolutely. And what was great about that is that, so first of all, I had to learn how to say the big number. So when somebody says how much, and again, I'm slightly embarrassed by this, but it was 10 years ago and I was starting out as a coach.
Yeah.
All the usual excuses, Dave, let's be fair. But saying when somebody said how much, and I'm like, well, it's 3K for us to work together. I had to get over that fear of saying that big number. And
yeah, even you said it now, sounds like you're,
but I'm putting myself in my shoes like 10
exactly. Yeah.
Fresh out of, selling my agency where everything had been relatively moderately easy, and then coaching was a whole different ball game for me then. But what I learned very quickly then was because I managed to stimulate quite a lot of demand. I had a book which hadn't long been out, which was doing particularly well. I had a couple of great opportunities early to get on the speaker circuit in my local area down in the southwest of the UK. And of course, things started to snowball and demand started kicking. Of course, I was always like, classic business management, supply and demand. It's like, right, if you're in demand and you haven't got much supply as a coach, then, and I was doing a lot of one-to-one, you can start to increment your prices. So, yesterday it was 3K and then a client would come along tomorrow and say, how much? And I'd say, well, it's £3,600 and then £4,200. I gradually, graduated my prices through the gears. But the final bit, because again, we were still monthly and clients would still try it on. So I would take 3,600, divide it by 6 and clients would pay £600 a month, not 500. And so you'd still get clients.
Oh, you're still paying a month to month, but
yeah. So I was still, even though I was doing it based on outcomes and everything else, I still just divided it. And I was like, and then eventually I realized that was a mistake because people then, they didn't seem that committed. They were kind of treating it a bit like Netflix.
They still flake out after 3 or 4 months sometimes.
That's it. So I made one tweak was then at that point was just to pay a majority up front. So I would say, right, you're going to pay 1,600 up front and then the balance will pay down over 5 months. And then all of a sudden, even if a client got to 4 months, well, they've paid the majority and most of them go, well, we might as well see out the last 2 months.
Right. It's already paid 250.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that just made it really sticky. And I started at that point to, a lot of coaches saw that I was making good money from my coaching. I did 6 figures, just shy of it actually, like 98K in my first year. And out of the last 10 years, that's the only year I've done less than sort of 100K. And so I had a lot of coaches then coming to me saying, how are you doing 6 figures? We just can't, how do you do it? And I was like, well, there's a demand side of things. Like, how can you actually get enough demand from people to buy coaching services? But on the supply side of things, I was like, well, I'm a scarce commodity. Like I set my capacity then at 20 clients. I was like, I can't work. I'm just frying my brain if I work with any more than that.
Right.
And so again, it's a very simple model when you actually start to sort of roll it out.
Nice. So when you're working with new coaches now, is that the same model that you're recommending to them in 2025?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we go, if we were to break it down into a quick fire step by step, the first one is get used to packaging it up and saying the big number. So even if it's the same effective hourly rate, we still get comfortable saying the big number to somebody. Then
so just out of curiosity, Robin, 10 years ahead, what's the big number that you're recommending to most people this day? Because I'm sure a lot of them are still coming in really undercharging for their services.
Yeah, I mean, pounds wise, as a coach starting out, 3 to 5K is a minimum, absolute minimum. And that's for either a 3 or 6 month program, which they're selling. So dollars wise, we're talking probably like 5 to 9K ish current exchange rate.
Yeah.
And that's primarily for one-to-one. And then, so stage one is like, get comfortable saying that big number. If you're in high demand, then you can start to increment your prices faster. So it gives you that acceleration, basically. The final pivot then is, once you've got comfortable doing that, is then shifting more so into, is there a group version of whatever it is that you're doing? Not every coaching program naturally transfers across into a group structure. And in some cases, it's down to the coach themselves. They might just, whatever the reasons might be, it might just not work out for them. But again, through my experience, we probably see after about 2 to 3 years, coaches will graduate up into selling, high ticket group programs. But again, the natural thing for most coaches then is, it's group, so it must be less valuable. So they then downgrade their pricing. But okay. What was really interesting, so I went from, to give an idea of timeline, so I sold my agency 2016, did informal mentoring for about 9 months. Then I was like, this is getting serious now, I need to start charging for it. So I started coaching 2017 officially. By late 2018, I had enough demand now coming through and so many like inquiries sat in my inbox that I was like, I need to go group. It wasn't optional at that point. I was like, I have to go group. It's the only way to kind of scale this thing. Mm-hmm. And I kept my prices at similar to what my entry level one-to-one was at. So I opened up at 3K. And 2 really interesting things happened. My conversion rate went up for group.
Interesting.
And the second thing happened, my results got better as well with clients.
So you sold it better, you got better results.
Yeah, basically. And it was because I didn't have a choice. So I had to make it work. That was kind of part of the thing. I was kind of had my back against the wall a little bit, but there's something really fascinating which happens in the group setting, which is that mastermind effect, which everybody talks about. And if you can make it work well, qualify the right sorts of clients into it, so you're not getting disruptive clients. Mm-hmm. Don't just make it about, so I don't make it about, it's not like the Robin Waite show in the Fearless community and the Fearless crew. I have a small team of associate coaches. Everybody, we buddy up with an accountability buddy within the program. We have other areas of support as well. So we do things called like turbo calls. We have a couple of WhatsApp groups and our whole ethos is about community. Mm-hmm. And so again, when I took my ego out of the picture and just made it about growing this awesome community of business owners, all of a sudden it's not just about me imparting my ideologies and frameworks and things like that. It's also about, well, now we've got close to 200 other experts in that community who all have something really powerful to say and value to that. And so I think that's why our results have shot up, because if there's something I don't know, and I know my area really well, pricing, money, mindset, productization, sale, great. And I've got that down, but then you shift across into maybe the softer sort of skills around, let's say, mindset, accountability and things like that. I'm like, that's not where I'm the best at. So I pull in associate coaches to do the other bits where my skill sets are a little bit light. And it's all about adding as much value as you can.
Very, very smart. So Robin, you talked a bit about generating this demand. What are you finding working well, not just for yourself, but for your clients these days for generating demand for their coaching services?
Yeah. Have you ever come across Dan Sullivan's work? So he wrote a fantastic book called 10X, Not 2X. Mm. And I'm re-listening to it again, actually, at the moment. And it's quite fascinating because the common misconception in any small business is like, hey, we're going to grow our business. We're going to double our turnover. And so everybody's like, right, we need double the clients. We need double the sales calls. We need double the marketing. We need double. And then you say, have you got time to do double the amount of all of that? And they're like, absolutely not. So we're going to hire somebody. We're going to hire somebody else to come in and they'll do double all of the work. And it's like, do you think they want to do double all of the work? Probably not, right? So 2Xing is actually a really inefficient way of seeing how to grow a business. And it was just personal experience. Back end of 2022, I was doing all the stuff that, you know, the gurus and experts tell you to do, the short and long form videos, the social media, you know, posting 90 gazillion times a day, blogging, the podcasting, the yada, everything, basically, email. I was just burnt out. I was just kind of done with it, really, because it was like, it was working, but it's like, for the amount of effort, I just didn't feel the results were tantamount. And don't get me wrong, it could have been something I was doing wrong potentially, but and there are some people you see out there on social who are just absolutely smashing it. But frankly, social media is a lottery. You know, it's just something Gary Vee's talking a lot about at the moment. So I was done. I just went anti-social in 2023. I was done with it. But of course, you still got to market yourself. You still got to get your brand out there and raise awareness. So I did a couple of things. Like, first of all, I was like, well, what would marketing look like if it was fun for a start? And then I was like, well, it would be hanging out with some really cool people, right? You know, high level podcasts like yours. But what if, and these may be names that you may or may not recognize, but there's a YouTuber called Ali Abdul, who's in my world. He's like, you know, 6 million subscribers, productivity guy. He's like awesome. Chris Doe's a coach for creatives. He's brilliant. Just all of these bright minds. And so I wrote a list of 10 people. I was like, if nothing else, it would just be really fun to be in their world and getting to hang out with them. So I got hyper intentional. And then it was a really simple transition. I kind of have now not being attached to my computer, sending out social media posts, and getting out of my little studio here in the Cotswolds. I was like, right, I can just go to their events. I've got all this extra time back now. So I would physically put myself in the same room as them and hang out and just see what it's like, but not be a passenger at the back of the room. I'll go and sit at the front of the room. I'll figure out if I can add some value and be helpful in their world. So things like Ali had this event on. Do stop me, by the way, because I can talk for like...
No, I'm curious, but this is interesting.
So I went to this event Ali was running. It was at a university, so it's a bit not like a typical entrepreneur's sort of business like auditorium.
Yeah.
And I could see everybody in going in there. There's like 600 people in it. They all looked lost because like nobody knew where anything was. So I put my coat and my bag down and I just said, "Oh, hey guys, like coffee's over that way. Ali's going to be doing his book signing over there afterwards. Like auditorium's that way. Toilets are that way." So I just started giving people directions. And one of Ali's, his general manager, Angus, came over to me. "Oh, hey Rob, how's it going?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, "What are you doing?" I just thought everybody looked a bit lost, so I thought I'd just help out. He's like,
a concierge for your event, for crying out loud.
He's like, "You're a guest. You don't need to do this." I was like, "Yeah, but I want to." It's just, I didn't know where everything was. I figured it out, so I thought I'd share it with everybody else. And so he went to walk away, and then he took about 5 steps, came back, and then he said, "Oh, Rob, what are you doing afterwards?" I said, "Well, nothing really. I was going to probably just jump on a train back home." He said, "Well, if you've got time, can you just hang around? Because Ali and I were talking about pricing this morning. Actually, we'd love to pick your brains." And I was like, let me think about this. Okay, yeah, I'm free all of a sudden to hang around, right? So that showing up in these people's worlds and being helpful, adding value, I didn't expect anything in return for it. It was just, I was like, just having fun, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, as the conversations evolved through 2023 with Ali and his team, and I've replicated this now in lots of different scenarios, so this process works. I ended up volunteering to coach Ali's team as he was growing it. Each one, I said, "Look, each time you get a new team member, I understand Ali's business now. Ali's got a coach, he doesn't need me, but I said, I'll coach each of your team members because they're all freelancers. I won't charge for it." And again, it was just fun. There's one guy, Joe, gave him a coaching session and he said, "That was just incredible. I need to pay you some money." I was like, "Don't want anything for this. That's not why I agreed with Ali." He said, "But I have to do something. This has been so insightful, so valuable." And I said, "Well, there's this one thing. I know Ali's got a podcast he's got a couple of seasons which he's recording, and I know he's got, over 3 weeks, he's got 24 guests flying in." And said, "I don't want to put myself out there to be on the podcast because I know he's booked, he's full. But I said, put me on the subs bench. If anybody can't make a flight or whatever, because they were flying in from all over the world, I said, just put me on the subs bench and I'll fill that recording spot if you want me to." And this guy went, "Oh, well, that's easy, Rob." He said, "I'm dating Ali's podcast booker, so no problem. I'll just ask her over dinner tonight. I'm sure we can probably sort something out." Anyway, that evening I get a call saying, "Well, funny enough, somebody's cancelled on Tuesday." went down, recorded, rest is history. But that one podcast interview led to 3,000 leads for my humble little coaching practice. And 44 clients. I even enrolled somebody through Ali's sort of world a couple of weeks ago. So that's 2 years after the recording now. Wow. And about £250,000 worth of business for my humble little coaching practice. And I went back afterwards because the stats are like remarkable. So I went back and looked at my email list because I was just curious, how long did it take me to get 3,000 leads before that, the old way? And the old way, it took me 4.5 years to get 3,000 people in my list. Wow. And then just 2.5 hour conversation on a podcast. So it just blew my mind. And then I was like, I kind of at that point hadn't worked out the framework. What had I done? What were all the bits that had come together? Yeah. And now I've got the sort of 5 steps, which is to be intentional, be in the same room, add as much value as you possibly can do. There's something as well around like the finding, like, because Ali as well got super busy. So Angus became my inside man in the end. So if I wanted to get something or to ask a question or to help out with something, there's no point asking Ali. I used to get nice voice notes from the guy, and now I get like yes or no answers on WhatsApp, right? Yeah. So find your inside man. So that's step number 4. And then the final one, which I learned afterwards or since, is the silver platter. So as I've started to add these people now into my WhatsApp, my black book, like WhatsApp is the modern day black book, isn't it? Yeah. You used to write your contacts down in. So now I've got this, I look at, sometimes I can't quite believe it. It's quite surreal. I look at my WhatsApp and I'm like, got all these amazing, incredible people in it. So I went to Dubai start of this year to an event, and I was able to bring 2 influencers together, combined had something like 25 million followers and subscribers across their channels. Just because I don't know why, but they hadn't met before. So I was like, right, let's bring them together. I had both their numbers. We made it work. They've done podcast swaps together and stuff like that. Yeah. And of course, next time I see both of them, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much for hooking me up with so-and-so, you know. So the silver platter is massively important. But there's one word of caution is the ask. The ask is so important because I've messed up a couple of potential opportunities because I got the timing wrong. I asked the wrong person, or too much from out of my ask, or whatever it was. So the timing of the ask, how much you ask, what you ask for, and who you ask it of are like massively important to get those things right. And also off that list, I've cut like 2 or 3 people as well, that initial list of 10, because you start to look into their world and sort of see what these people are about. And then you're like, actually, our values and message don't really align. It's probably not best fit, or they're just heading in that direction. I'm heading in that direction. Yeah.
That's smart.
But it's repeatable. You know, I've got my dream speaking gig as a result of this process. I've got amazing partnerships with various people now sort of around the world who are very influential. I've become ambassadors for their brands and various other things like that. But the thing a lot of people don't get as well is, this is my last thing on it because I know time is marching on, but social media is all about like quick wins. I can post something, instant gratification, it pops up there, I get some likes, comments, and maybe a repost or a share, right? But rarely does it actually directly lead to business. I mean, either way, it's awareness anyway. That's what social media is. It's not like, anyway. Whereas the partnerships, you've got to be committed for the long haul. Some of the partnerships I've been working on now for 2-3 years, since I started this process, and it's only just starting to yield results if we were to measure it. But more importantly, the social media now, so I used to spend like 30 plus hours a week easily on social between me and my team. My partnerships now, maybe I invest like a couple of hours a week, and I get to have the odd trip off to Dubai. Oh, woe is me, it's really awful. So far less time, and I get to do some really cool stuff as well as a result.
Yeah, you're having fun again, right?
Yes.
It's much more enjoyable. It reminds me a little bit of the whole micro version of the Dream 100 concept that Chet Holmes, I first became aware of from him many, many, many years ago. But you kind of came up with your Dream 10 and just really laser focused on that. So, yeah.
Well, the big difference is such a good insight, actually. The big difference is the Dream 100 is like, hey, let's go and pick 100 businesses that I want to get some money from, right?
Well, it could be different ways. That was his original way, but many people Russell Brunson used that whole concept Russell Brunson used that whole concept for, growing click funnels and this and that and the other. So it could be finding partners as well, not just clients, but
but whittle it down to like the 10 where you've got that nice Venn diagram where it crosses over in the middle between your audiences, but where they've got large audiences. And I remember Ali, like I was like, Ali, don't want to take the mickey because you've mentioned my books a couple of times and you kind of got me on your podcast and stuff. Like, why do you keep doing this stuff for me? And he's like, well, because I was there once. I didn't. There was a day when I only had 5,000 YouTube subscribers, and I was finding it tough, and I can see that, like, these people get all of these requests for like free stuff all of the time, and a draw on their time. He's like, you've come into my world and you've actually added value. All of my team are elevated and better because you're in my world. So why would I not want to thank you? And I remember what it was like. So again, if it's done from a genuine, and it only needs small numbers, like 100 even feels like a big number sometimes to have to farm that list almost, if you like, or to put all your attention into it. Whereas 10, you can
10 is doable.
You can remember 10 names. I'd struggle to remember more than that these days.
Well, this is fascinating. Thanks for sharing your process with us. If people would like to find out more, I think you've got a book, you've got a YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a small pile of signed copies of Take Your Shot, actually, which I'm happy to send out to your listeners wherever you are, guys. If you
maybe send in a batch to North America, I hope you're okay with that.
No, that's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that. Part of it is about, like, sometimes, well, I won't give you the backstory, but I believe like good quality business advice should be available for free. So it's my way of kind of giving back and helping other people as well. But yeah, fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot. And pop your details in there. Like I said, I'll sign it and post it out if you pop your details in. And then the YouTube is a constant sort of mission because, again, I just believe in giving away hopefully good quality business advice to people to help get them started, to help grow their businesses. So if you just go and search for Robin Waite with an E on the end of it on YouTube, you should hopefully find my channel. Give it a little subscribe.
Wonderful. Remind us again the URL for the book.
The book, fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot.
Awesome, Robin. Thanks very much for being on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
It's an absolute pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the High Ticket Success Podcast. Want to be featured? Share your story and inspire other premium coaches, consultants, and advisors? Apply now at highticketsuccesspodcast.com/guest.